Welcome back, you guys. We're going to be in Forces in Motion Lesson 1.6, evaluating claims and thruster forces. So in our warm-up, we're going to go ahead and hop in, and you have a letter to, or a short thing to read about the pods, if it will stop or not. This mission was actually different. We know that. I hopped over into Amplify so you guys could see the warm-up. So bring up your warm-up in Amplify. This is part 1 of lesson 1.6, and scroll down a little bit. And it wants you to think about the thruster forces and look at the first two claims. Now, once you look at those two claims at the bottom, it's going to ask you which one of those you think it was, and because the thrusters had exerted a force that is greater than, weaker than, equal to. So you're going to decide which of these claims it is. So you're going to complete those claims. Pause the video here so you can go ahead and do your warm-up. You should take no longer than 1 to 2 minutes. All right, so in most cases, pods move in one direction and the thrusters exert a force in the opposite direction. The right amount of force should make that pod stop moving so that it can dock. So instead, ours actually went in the opposite direction. We're going to look at those two claims. Claim 1 is that the thrusters caused the pod to move in the opposite direction before it even reached the space station. Then our claim 2 is that the thrusters only slowed the pod down. It didn't stop it. The pod made the space station, which made it move, the pod hit the space station, which made it move in the opposite direction. So as you looked in your warm-up, you saw those two claims. So what can you infer about the thruster force that would have caused the situation described in claim number 1? And then what about claim number 2? So I want you to pause the video here, discuss this with your shoulder partner. Take no longer than 1 minute to do that. If you need to start a timer, please do. You can get one on Google. Just Google timers and bring one up. Pause the video here so you can complete that question. 1 minute. All right, we're going to go on to activity 2, modeling thruster forces. So you have a letter that you need to read, and it says, great work so far in your investigation into what happened when we lost contact with the ACM pod. As our team investigates what kept this pod from docking, your models and arguments will play a key role in helping us understand what could have caused the pod to move away from the space station. There was a problem with the amount of force exerted by the thrusters. Or was there a problem? Your explanations will help us interpret the data that we're trying to recover from the pod. We hope we have some data soon. So now you're going to apply what you have learned to these two claims. You will make models of these two claims, one for each. You'll send it to the space agency to explain how the thrusters could have affected the pod's motion based on these two claims. So in the first model, you will show how the thruster force could have caused the pod to change or reverse direction. In the second model, you'll show how the thruster force could have caused the pod only to slow down and then hit the space station itself. So pause the video here, and you're going to hop into Amplify and complete the models. I'm going to pause it here. I want to show you how to do that. Okay, so I opened up card 2 of part 2, and it just says right here, you're going to click claim 1. If you think it's claim 1, then you're going to go into this model. Actually, you're going to do it for both, but click on claim 1, and you are going to bring up the model that's there. Once you get the model up, you're going to complete that model, and your goal is to model the thruster force that would cause the pod to go in the opposite direction. Make sure you read these do's so that you make sure that you do those in your model. So when that model does come up, make sure that you bring these items from the bottom. You'll need to drag up the object and put it in place for each one of these, and you're going to need to finish the before and after. So you'll bring up the velocity bars for the before and the after, and you're also going to bring up the during. Now remember, you need to drag up each item and just duplicate what they already have here and then add to it for this bottom part here. You're going to add to it. And you're going to do that for card 2 and for card 3 for both claims. What would it look like? Pause the video here. Go take no more than 4 minutes to complete these claims. You can discuss it with your partners. Make sure you meet your goal and you do your do's for each one. Pause the video here so that you can complete that. So now that you've had time to make those models and discuss it with your partners, what inferences did you make about the thrusters and the forces that were in each one of those claims that we had? Which one was stronger? Which one was weaker? All right, so let's explain the thruster force. So now you'll write about the two claims in terms of cause and effect. We've talked about this cross-cutting concept, but cause and effect. Dr. Gonzalez is actually interested in understanding the relationship between the thruster force and the change in the velocity, and this is going to help our USA team interpret the data. So Key concept you should understand at this point is understanding a cause and effect relationship can help you infer what led to a particular result. So we can focus on that result. So when you are, do you understand this now? I hope so. We're going to move on. When you're writing about your claims, you need to clearly state how a stronger or weaker thrust force would affect the pod's motion. You should use that science vocabulary to help you make your thinking clear. So let's review examples to help us understand the cause and effect relationships. So what causes the jar lid to start moving across the floor? Is it the launcher caused the lid to start moving across the floor? Or when I released the launcher exerted a force on the lid. As a result, the force exerted by the launcher, the velocity of the jar lid changed and it started to move across the floor. Okay, so if we look at this example, the blue words help us to describe it a little bit more clearly. So when would be the cause and blue or the red would be the effect. Okay, so when I released the jar launcher, cause, the launcher exerted a force on the jar lid, effect, right? And then as a result, the force exerted by the launcher, the velocity of the jar lid changed and it started to move across the floor. So the words in blue help us to clearly explain the cause and effect relationship to the reader. When the launcher exerted a force, then we had the cause or result happen. So when we exerted that force, then the launcher put a force on the lid. So cause and effect. So there are two parts to the writing activity. Since we have two claims that describe what could have happened to cause the pod to change direction. So we know something different happened. So as you write, think about and use the words in the word banks provided and cause and effect. Make sure you're including cause and effect phrases in your answer to this, as well as using your two modeling diagrams. You just created two modeling diagrams. Those should help you to be able to describe it as well. So pause the video here. I want you guys to jump into activity 3. Go ahead and use that word bank. Complete the statements. Complete the statements on your part 3, and you're just going to tell what would happen in each one of those situations for claim 1 and claim 2 using those words. Explain it down here below. You should take no more than 5 minutes to do this. Make sure you start a timer, pause the video here so you can complete that part of the lesson. All right, so at this point, that'll be the end of our lesson. We are not going to do the homework for this lesson today. So you can hop back into Canvas and see what other information that you need to complete, and have a wonderful day. Be sure you take your mastery checks at the end of the lessons so that you can get those lessons mastered off and show me what you've learned.